the market's going to continue rising, especially if liquidity keeps rising, because it means that the market is getting what it expected, which is basically for the Fed to pivot. That's what this move is, right? This move is pricing in the Fed pivoting. So obviously they might not pivot, but they've literally said they're going to, so it seems unlikely that they won't. And so what you're looking for next is some kind of liquidity event, right? Something that makes them have to really start accelerating the increase of money supply again. It wouldn't necessarily be printing. The money's already printed, right? The global liquidity is not even back at its previous highs. So you don't have to outright see QE, but you can see it by the Fed, who are draining the reverse repo, which is under a trillion now. And I think once that gets to zero, they will then start doing QE slightly, just shortly after that is the expectation. Anyway, what you really want to see now is a beginning of a trend upwards in liquidity, right? We're not actually in an upwards trend, right? We're at the start of it trying to bottom out. As long as this continues to grind higher, then really the only thing you need to look at is what are the central banks doing? Because the moment the Fed said they were going to start raising rates over here, we topped. And at the same time, global liquidity topped. And the market bottomed when global liquidity bottomed, right? Whenever it was going sideways, the very, very, very bottom was right here, and then we went up only. And the same's going to happen again. Pretty much. There's no reason to expect anything different, really. So I think the best thing to do is to follow that closely and just understand that you need to be long until the Fed says otherwise. Let's say the Fed, it goes for all central banks, but they all basically follow the Fed. Because the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world, they all want to follow the Fed as well. Because they're just creatures of habit. It's like the pandemic fucking printing and all is the perfect example. As soon as the Fed said we need emergency money and start printing, all the other ones are just literally rubbing their hands together with excitement. Because they're like, we've got a free pass. You will never lose your job for following the crowd. This is how politics works. This is also how hedge funds work. Most hedge fund managers underperform the S&P because instead of coming up with any novel ideas, they just follow what other hedge fund managers are doing. This is why trend, like the general narrative following, is such a common thing. It's just a herd mentality. A thing called career risk. If you stick your head out above the crowd and you're wrong, you can lose your job because your investors say, what do you do that for? Fucking taking risks. But if you jump on the AI bubble and everyone else on the AI bubble, and even if you underperform or lose money, you're not going to get fired because you're like, it was AI. And they're like, yeah, we all thought AI would be big. Like that's the nature of it. That's also why these bubbles inflate, though, because this is why AI is so obvious. It's not to say that everyone's going to pick the best winner, but all the money's going to chase AI because there's no career risk in getting long AI. Every hedge fund manager, every VC, they're all going to have a free pass to long AI. It's not risky to their career. And so the same goes in politics. If the Fed start printing, the others can print as much as they want. No one will ever fire them. They'll never lose their job because all they say is, look, it was pandemic, emergency. And look at the Federal Reserve did it. The Bank of England did it. The Bank of Japan did it. So The fact that the Fed are signaling a pivot is just should just be a massive, massive, massive flashing fucking warning sign to you. They're telling you what's happening. This is just like late 2021 when they told the market that they were going to start raising rates. I think it was in the December meeting where they literally said, we are raising rates next year. And the market believed them, right? And started to sell off. And of course, the stock market went slightly higher, but it always does, right? There's a last push. But people didn't. People were coping. I remember like people were telling me the bull market couldn't end. I saw it over Twitter how it was going higher and higher and higher. I was like, listen to the Fed. It doesn't matter if you don't think you've made enough money. That's not like the market doesn't care. The Fed doesn't care. They've told you the party's over. So they've just told us the party is beginning next year at some point. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be up only. It means that every dip is a buy. Right? And that's really the way you should be viewing it. I think if you've got regular income, which obviously everybody should have, you shouldn't be sitting here with $500 and no job, right? So if you're working hard, you're making money, you're doing boot camp, you're learning how to trade, you're investing, and you've got regular income, so you make more money than you spend each month, I think you should be near 100% spot long for the next year. And then deciding each month when you get paid whether it's a good time to put that money in, right? So obviously if you get paid and we're like pumping hard and funding rates super high, maybe hold off and wait. So a little bit of a modified dollar cost average where you don't just put it in every time you get money. You add a little bit of trading knowledge. And if it's, if we're significantly pumping when you get paid, then you maybe hold it back and you wait for a dip. But literally, I just think every single dip for the next year is a buy. Until either we go past all-time highs or until the Fed signals something other than easy money conditions. And they're just not they're not going to. COVID was a total scam. You saw what they did. The election is the biggest scam on the planet every 4 years. They're going to do everything possible to make the economy and the markets good before the election. There used to be concerns about people would say like, well, Wall Street don't want Biden to be president. Wall Street don't like Democrat presidents. Wall Street want Republican presidents. But then the problem is the Republican president is Trump. And Wall Street don't like him. They hate him. Listen to fucking Ken Griffin or Stanley Druckenmiller or any of them talk about him. They're not fans. So there's probably going to be no opposition from